Okay, so I think maybe I finally got it. So what they told me to do is to clear my cache, which I did, and then just log back in. So I went back and I redid all that shit. So hopefully it'll all work now. So, okay. Go live now. You want to go to live stream. Why is this not working? Oh, fuck me. Okay, so sorry about that. So basically, what was happening is the you need to have the cache basically disabled. So I went through and I think I deleted everything that was open. It says video was removed by user. Okay, so I'm really sorry about that, people. Google Hangouts is shit. It's always been shit, and it always will be shit. So let me just see here. What do I have open? So this is the one I have open at the moment. So we'll see if this works. Sorry about that. Fuck me. What a piece of shit. It still doesn't work. It's weird because I can join it. Like, I just, okay. I don't get it because when I go to it and I join it, it works perfectly fine. It will it does not show up for me that it's not working. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel this. I'm going to go through and try and figure this out. So sorry, people. Maybe there'll be a stream later if I can figure this out in the next half hour. Ugh. Okay, so we're just gonna do chat questions. I'm really sorry about that, people. I really wanted to have like a live stream where I could interact with the chat and you people could give me money because that's what viewer interaction is about. But Google just doesn't want me to wants to let me do that. So I don't really know what the issue is. Basically, what happened is people were just unable to join. So it's, yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. Adam K. Archangel had the very true message that parents who spy on their kids and are overly strict, the kids will end up hating them. What if you just join someone else's call? That's an interesting issue. I don't know. It's just, I'll deal with it some other time. So kind of my issue with Archangel, I think it's an interesting question because as soon as she like stopped spying on her kid, the girl immediately became a thought and immediately started getting groomed by that other guy. So like her mother stopped watching on her. The day her mother stopped spying on her, the girl, that guy started showing her hardcore pornography, graphic violence, and it eventually turned her into a massive thought just because of like how disturbing the content was. So I think that's an interesting kind of dimension to it, where to a certain extent the episode was kind of, I think, giving a balanced view of it. In some ways it was saying, yes, the spying is bad and all, but they kind of inverted it at the end, because it was like it starts off with the mother being completely unsympathetic, the mother just being kind of a shitty person, like kind of a helicopter parent. But yeah, but in the end, her kind of spying on her daughter was like completely justified, because in a world with people from a certain a certain group who will show their kids violent pornography, you kind of do need to censor what they see. So I think that's kind of what was interesting about the episode, and I think that's kind of what's interesting about the show in general, is you do have these kind of things. Let's see here. Crocodile had no message. Same with Metalhead. Metalhead, I gave a 0 out of 10 to. Metalhead is one of the worst things I've ever seen on television. Metalhead was irredeemably shit. Like, nothing happened in it. It was literally just some random woman running from some sort of dog thing for like 40 minutes. There was no story, no plot, no dialogue. Crocodile could have been in any kind of crime show. It could have been in anything. There was nothing proprietary. There was nothing kind of interesting about it. It didn't really seem to be going anywhere. It just turned out that she was killing people to protect herself, which isn't very interesting. I've tried watching Ozark. My issue with Ozark is that the main character just isn't sympathetic at all. And to me, that's kind of a problem. So I just had trouble kind of getting into it when I was trying to watch Ozark. Just because with Walter White, I think, was a lot more sympathetic and kind of you could get into his head more. Whereas Jason Bateman's character is just kind of a psycho, a sociopath. So, yeah, I don't really like him. Metalhead was terrible. What was it? What is kind of some of the other stuff? I'm not saying Ozark's a bad show. I just had trouble getting into it, I guess you could say. Is kind of how I felt about Ozark. Like I said, it's not a bad TV show. It's just, it might not be my thing necessarily. So, can you post the invite? No, I'm not doing that just because I couldn't figure it out. It just didn't work. So we'll do a viewer hangout some other time. Black Museum I didn't think was bad. Black Museum was kind of undermined by the social justice messages in it. I've only seen season 4. I only saw season 4 because my buddy Abstract was really insistent that we watch Black Mirror season 4. So I was like, okay, I'll go and watch it with you. So, I thought the stuff in Black Mirror was interesting. It wasn't bad about the You have to start at why do I have to start at season 1? It's an anthology show. You can watch the episodes in any order. But no, no, I like Black Mirror. I'd actually watch the rest of it. As I said, my only issue is the constant race mixing in it is kind of the issue. Well, it's not even race mixing. It's all either mud sharking or oil drilling. It's literally there's nothing else. There's no Asians in the show or anything. That's all there is. And that's kind of the same thing with all the Netflix shows. I know they have that in what's that show called again? I'm really getting into the show The 3%, which I really like, but that's all it is. Probably because it's made in Brazil. Yeah, so. Take a wild guess what those terms mean. What was I thinking about again? Let's see. Star Wars was bland. Okay, so people want me to talk about Star Wars. I actually have a video about... The Punisher is paused. If you've seen that show, it's like unwatchably paused. Every villain is like a right-wing white male. Like all the minority characters in it are the good guys. Like the first episode is there's like some... the first episode there was some like Hispanic guy whose father was in the army who was being tricked into organized crime by a bunch of white working class guys, and the white working class guys were stealing money from the Italian mafia, and it kind of just goes downhill from there. So like everybody who's a good guy in the show is either like Persian or Jewish or something, and all the bad guys other than whatchamacallit is bad. Let's see here. So the new Star Wars film. So rather than just talk about how much the new Star Wars film sucked, because frankly I think we all know how bad it was, my issue with the new Star Wars film, this is like how I would have made it better. There was a... trying to think of how to call it. Okay, so there was a hint at a theme in it, and that's kind of part of the reason I hated The Last Jedi so much, is The Force Awakens was bad. Don't get me wrong, it's one of the worst written movies I've ever seen, but I can kind of see what they were doing with it. They were just trying to play it as safe as possible. They were trying to just... They were trying to make it as safe as possible. They were just trying to say, oh, look, there's nostalgia. Oh, remember the original movies? Remember how much you liked them? We're just going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to bring back the Death Star. We're going to bring back Darth Vader. We're going to bring back all this other stuff. And you're going to like it. It's going to be really good. So that was kind of like what happened with the first one. And I didn't like it, but I could kind of see where they're going from. My issue with The Last Jedi is you could see there was some potential there. Like you could see they were like there was some potential to have a better movie, but they just completely wasted it on screen. And in a lot of ways that's a lot more depressing than if it had have just been a shitty movie. Cuz like okay, so here was my... because I was thinking about it. I think it's one thing for me to just complain and say how much it sucks. So here's my constructive criticism. I think the idea that of the whole out with the old, in with the new, that this war between the two factions has been going on for decades, and more it's just young people being thrown into this meat grinder to settle this grudge from like 30 years ago, I think is actually an interesting theme, because you kind of have the whole baby boomer thing. You have the whole like changing of the guard, kind of the alienation of the millennials, their parents not willing to kind of... their parents have kind of completely failed them, and they're not willing to kind of move aside and give the next generation a chance. So I think that's an interesting idea, and it was kind of hinted at. And I think like what you could have done is here's how I would have made the movie. Have all the members of the First Order, like all the leadership of the First Order and the Resistance, be really old. Like all the generals, all the captains are just really old. And have Leia just constantly talk about the 6 million who died in Alderaan. Have them like have the First Order talk about like how we was the Empire, how they've lost all of their their wealth, their lands. Like just obsess over the glory of the Empire. Just have them completely living in the past. Have the Resistance completely living in the past too. And all the Resistance is interested in was revenge. They like it's just to show it's not an ideological conflict anymore. It's solely about the two sides being unwilling to kind of let bygones be bygones and try to move along. And basically the younger generation, like I said, is being the what's it called again? What was I thinking of? Yeah. And just have the realization between Kylo Ren and Rey that this whole thing is bullshit. There's nothing else. Like there's just nothing ideological about the conflict anymore. There's nothing meaningful about the conflict anymore. They're not fighting about anything other than just simple basic revenge. And Kylo Ren and Rey basically kind of come to the decision that they have to seek a future that's beyond kind of this really petty, like these two kind of caricature ideologies. Like either you have this like totalitarian, sadistic, crazy, evil right-wing government, or you have this anarcho dildo state, and maybe they want to like create something new, something a bit different. Maybe have some aspects of like it being a republic with a stronger executive, kind of trying to bring back the old republic, or to just kind of make a more interesting something like that. So I thought that was an interesting theme. It just wasn't explored at all. And I remember when I watched the movie, I was naive. I was like, this movie was a fucking piece of shit. I hate this film. But maybe they're leading up to, maybe that's on purpose. Like when Kylo Ren reached out his hand, he's like, join me, Rey, and we'll sweep aside all of this bullshit. We'll build a new world, and we'll change things. And like, wow, maybe maybe this is what it was leading up to. Maybe they're going to join forces. That would be the first truly interesting plot twist in this damn reboot. Like it would have been brilliant. It would have been like, Luke, I am your father. It would have been that level of shocking. But they decided not to do this, and they opted for the most generic shit possible. So that's my thoughts. I'm curious, does anyone think that that's like a good idea of how to like remake these, like how I would have done, just using what they've given me, how I would have dealt with the new movies? And also the other thing that irritates me is I'm rereading Darth Plagueis, and unironically, completely seriously, Darth Plagueis is one of the best books I've ever read. Darth Plagueis has like the best vocabulary of any book I've ever read. It's so funny because, as Abstract said, because I basically he's reading it now, and Abstract was like, I'm reading this like esoteric story where Darth Plagueis is like pontificating on the nature of life and death, and you have all this interesting political intrigue, and then I'm watching shitty Star Wars commercials with like, I don't know, Rey and Finn. It's interesting because they got rid of, like, Finn's not even, like, in the movies anymore. They basically got rid of him. Like, he's barely a character in the franchise anymore. Like, they spent all this time building him up and introducing him. But then they went absolutely nowhere with it. I mean, like, they went nowhere with it. Like what happened in this movie? The whole movie was literally just them sitting on a ship being shot at by other ships that aren't able to attack them for no clear reason. Like, I don't get it. Why are the First Order ships not capable of catching up to the... What's it called again? Like, to the Republic transport. Why are they that slow? In Star Wars, larger ships are faster than slower ships. They're not more agile, but faster. Larger ships are faster because they have bigger engines. So, like, the fastest ships in Star Wars are Star Destroyers. Star Destroyers have much better engines than than smaller ships. General Hux is a terrible character. We don't know anything about him. He's just some evil young blonde guy. Young redhead. That's all we know about him, is he's just a neo-Nazi. And, I mean, that's not an interesting backstory. Vader is a very complex character. You have all these kind of conflicting emotions in him. He's evil, but he still has, like, a shred of honor within him, etc. Palpatine is fascinating just because he's so evil, just because he's fun to watch. Like, Ian McDiarmid always, you can tell he's having a lot of fun with the character. You can tell that he's really enjoying himself. And, like, Palpatine always has these schemes. You're always wondering, what is this guy going to pull off next? What he's going to do next? And then you have Snooki. What the fuck was Snooki? Like, they fucking took a character from the Jersey Shore and they made him the main villain. Like, why? Like, we don't know anything about Snoke. We know absolutely nothing about... Like, who is he? Is he a Sith? Is he Darth Plagueis? Is he the Sith Emperor? Like, what the fuck is he? And it's like, people are like, well, Argent is just a movie. Yeah, but if the main villain has no backstory, and a lot of the movie is kind of based on the main villain being like this threat, there's no tension. Why should I be afraid of Snooki? Like, Darth Vader, he's a fallen Jedi. Like, that's interesting. That is a background. That is a backstory. Palpatine, we got to see his backstory, and it was fucking awesome. It's just him being, like, it was hilarious. Like, it was awesome to watch that guy just manipulate everybody and just kind of go through it all. And then you have Snoke or Snooki, who just wears, like, Hugh Hefner robes. And why did they bring Captain Phasma back if they were just going to kill her in a retarded way? And what was the deal with them ripping off Casino Royale? Like, they went to that random planet with the casino on it, and the guy was like, these people are rich, and the only way they could get rich is selling weapons to the First Order. And I was like, how retarded do they think we are? So, is that it? Like, literally, there's no other economic activity in the entirety of the galaxy other than selling weapons to the First Order. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's just everything's about the First Order. That was the only other kind of interesting scene in the movie, when he's like, okay, they're selling weapons to the First Order, but they're also selling weapons to you guys. So who exactly is the bad guy and who exactly is the good guy? And I think that was like the most interesting. That was another kind of semi-interesting moment that was immediately ruined by like another shitty scene. And I'm trying to think of something I liked. I liked the new ship designs to a lot of extent. I liked the new finalizer class. Sorry, not the finalizer. I like the Resurgence class Star Destroyer. I think the Resurgence class Star Destroyer looked really cool. I think I thought the Praetorians looked really cool, actually. That was like one of the few scenes I liked when Kylo Ren and Rey were fighting the Praetorians. Like, I liked the way their armor looked. I like how they all had like their unique weapons. It was kind of because I always wanted to see the Imperial Guards fight, so I kind of feel like that was an okay scene. So I give them a pass on that. The hyperspace ramming scene, I had always wondered why people didn't do that more. That was okay. The Supremacy looks really lame. I like the Resurgence class. I like the new TIE fighters look really cool. I don't mind the new AT-ATs. They look okay too. Like, I'm trying to think. That's like the only good thing. Okay, you know what was the worst scene in the movie? That scene at the beginning where Poe Dameron is crank calling the captain of the crank calling General Hux. Like, did anyone feel that was completely out of place? Like, did anyone else feel that was really just weird? And it, like, there was that, and then there was Luke. What was the other thing? Like this, like, think about what we, like, you know, it was an attempt at quirk, and Star Wars isn't quirky. Star Wars isn't a quirk movie. It's like, there's one-liners. Like, I actually think the humor in the prequels wasn't bad. Like, when Obi-Wan was like, Anakin, I feel you'll be the death of me someday. Or, like, aggressive negotiations. Or, like, you don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life. Like, that, I think, kind of fit more with Star Wars. Having, like, crank calls and Luke throwing the lightsaber away in a movie that was this dark just fell completely flat. Like, let me think. I actually thought him killing Snoke was kind of okay. If there had been more context to it. Because, once again, it kind of mirrors Darth Vader killing the Emperor, which was a great scene too. But for whatever reason, yeah. So like it just, there's no build up to it. We don't know who Kylo Ren is. Sorry, we don't know who Snooky is. Like, okay, so Kylo Ren overthrew him. They should remove the Kylo buffed naked scene. He's making all the fat nerds too insecure. Like, nothing about the Resistance's plan made any sense. Nothing about the First Order scene made any sense. Okay, Red Letter Media loved The Force Awakens, and I refused to watch their review of it. But, like, the Last Jedi review is so funny, because they're like, oh, the movie wasn't that bad, was it? Like, it wasn't that bad. And then they literally just went on for like 40 minutes about how shitty the movie was. So it was just kind of funny. And it kind of an inversion of expectations, I suppose you could say. But, the last time in the movie where I thought they would do something good was when Luke showed up to fight Kylo Ren. And I thought it was going to be like the scene where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader are talking, and Luke would say something like, if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Or Um, and I thought he was gonna like Luke was there. Luke was gonna dodge a couple. Then he was gonna stand there and let Kylo Ren hit him with his lightsaber, and then he was just gonna become one with the Force. And I thought that that would have been good. Like that would have been like the last chance the movie had for being good. But instead, Luke just goes off, and then and fights with the Force Ghost, but he dies anyways. Why couldn't they just have Kylo Ren kill him? That would be a more dramatic scene. Also, why is Yoda crazy? That's a good point. Why the fuck did Yoda come back? It's just... Why couldn't Kylo Ren just kill him? Like, I don't get, like, was that, like, just... Was that just taboo for some reason? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing about that movie made any sense. Just have you... Why couldn't they have Ewan McGregor come back? Have Ewan McGregor come back all, like... So he looks like... Oh, you know what else was bullshit? How Luke didn't read the Jedi scriptures. Remember that? He's like, did you actually read the Jedi scriptures? No, they're boring. Well, okay, so I guess, like, what the hell was that about? That was lame. And I think Luke lied to Rey when he's like, oh no, I wasn't actually gonna kill Kylo Ren. I'm not. I wasn't. I thought I was going to, but then I didn't, and I was totally not going to kill him. It's just an accident. That was totally a misunderstanding. Kylo just kind of freaked out for some reason. He thought it was kind of bad that I was standing over him with a lightsaber, looking like I was going to kill him, etc. It's just like I'm just trying to like what was the thought? I don't get it. I just don't. I just don't know what they were thinking when they made this film. Okay, so the Republic military. So what happened with the Republic military is for the vast majority of its existence, the Republic had a military. There was a Republic fleet, a Republic army, and it was a standing army. It wasn't huge, but it was large enough for them to deal with external threats. The Republic army was like big enough to deal with external threats. It wasn't big enough to go and deal with like it wasn't it was never big enough to oppress the galaxy. So it was big enough to fight the Sith. It was big enough to fight to fight pirates and that sort of thing. It was never big enough to really oppress. Now, what happened with the Dark Age of the Republic, which was 1,000 years where the Republic completely collapsed and more or less ceased to exist. And the Sith also, there was kind of the new Sith Empire, and it collapsed, and you had just 1,000 years of warlords. And it was during that time period, the Dark Age of the Republic, when you had the Jedi Lords. So there was a time where there used to be Jedi Lords. So Jedi would have their own castles and their own planets, which is awesome. So you would have like Jedi princes that would rule over star systems and things like that. And it's not that the Jedi took over, it was that the people literally begged them to become lords of their planets because the Jedi would protect them from the Sith. So eventually what happened is Lord Khan founded the Brotherhood of Darkness. okay, we'll get to Leia's character in a minute. But yeah, so the Brotherhood of Darkness was founded by Khan, and the Brotherhood of Darkness was interesting because basically everybody who was a full Sith had the title Dark Lord of the Sith, and everybody had one vote on the council, etc. So the motto was, we are all are equal in the Brotherhood of Darkness. So he was able to get an army together big enough to start conquering planets, and the Republic was basically losing the war. However, Khan went completely in. However, what the Jedi wound up doing was they went to Rusin and they basically fortified the planet. They made all kinds of traps and stuff. And Khan viewed it as a challenge, so he abandoned his campaign for the core to go and just get into a war of attrition on Rusin. So what wound up happening on Rusin was it just became a meat grinder, and the Jedi were sending children as young as 12 in by the end of it. So they fought there for about a full year, and eventually Darth Bane at that point had decided that the rule of two needed to be enforced and the Brotherhood of Darkness needed to be overthrown. So all those things were kind of happening in the meantime. And okay, so you had Darth Bane, you had the Republic basically losing. So the Brotherhood of Darkness had basically won, but Bane sabotaged them and allowed the Republic to bring a bunch of reinforcements in. And he tricked the Brotherhood of Darkness into using a super weapon called the Thought Bomb, which killed them. So basically, anyways, Bane manipulated it so that he was the only remaining Sith. And with the destruction of the last Sith Empire, there was no longer viewed as a reason for there to be a Republic military. So post-Rusin, the Republic military was disbanded. All the Jedi Lords had their titles revoked. And they made a whole bunch of changes that, in my opinion, ultimately screwed over the Republic and made it into kind of the facile, weak version we had back by the time of the series. So yeah, so that's kind of what happened with the Brotherhood of Darkness. So Bane started the rule of two Sith, and he took Zana as his apprentice, who was one of the child soldiers who was being brought in by the Jedi to fight in the war. And I mentioned Bane during my top 5 alpha as fuck Star Wars characters. So Zana was so beautiful that she had to disguise herself in public because men would stare at her because she was too striking. So, you know Bane was getting some of that. Bane was also 6'3", and was super jacked because he used to work as a miner. Mining kurtosis, which you have to use pickaxes for because it's resistant to cutting beams. But anyways, Leia, let's see here. Talk about how Leia was handled in the movie. Are you telling me Mark Hamill's character is dead, but Carrie Fisher, who's fucking dead, has her character still alive? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me either. It's retarded. I don't understand why. Yeah, like, I didn't get it. Jedi soldiers exist in the same setting as fucking Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, a lot of the novels are actually really good. The Bane novels, there's 3 Bane novels, all 3 of which are excellent. There's Darth Plagueis, which is really good. There's Thrawn, which is new canon, but is still really good. Thrawn's really good. The Tarkin novel's pretty good too. The Tarkin novel is literally a bromance between Vader and Tarkin, and them going on a road trip together. And it's like, it didn't really have that much of a plot, but Tarkin has like the LARPiest background ever. It's really cool. And like I said, Darth Vader Tarkin bromance is always good. Yeah, but most of the new canon is awful. The new canon is just, oh. Rey is a terrible character. There's nothing about her. Like, I don't even find the actress attractive. Like, if they had have gotten some, like, really hot woman, like, what's her name? The one who played the main character in Rogue One. I could at least kind of get behind it because there's something for me to look at. But I just don't find Daisy Ridley, or whatever her name is, good looking. I just don't. So it's like she's a Mary Sue that's not even like eye candy. So it's the worst of all worlds. And she just has power. And like I hate the fanboys trying to defend this shit. Cuz like I remember after she somehow kicked Kylo Ren's ass, they were like, "Oh no, they only kicked his ass because Kylo Ren was injured." It's that's totally the reason that happened. Don't try to disagree. That's why it happened. So immediately after that bullshit that they tried to pull with that, the fanboys were saying that Snooki's not actually dead. What they actually killed was a Force ghost of Snooki, and Snooki's still alive, and this was part of some master plan to make Kylo Ren reach his full potential. And I was just like, what? I'm like, that's like the most desperate thing I've ever heard. You just can't accept how shitty the acting, like how shitty the directing was. And because you can't accept how shitty the directing is, let me see, what was the name of the woman in Rogue One? She was a lot better. Oh, okay, Sam is asking me to mention Sam's Law. So what Sam's Law is, never try to come up with an in-use information when bad writing would suffice. So people are trying to, like, justify all this bullshit that, like, oh no, they actually have, like, now they're going, okay, so none of our theories about The Last Jedi panned out. None of them panned out. All of those clickbait videos where it was like... let's see here. What's her name again? I'm trying to remember what her name is. Felicity Jones. I think Felicity Jones is much better looking than what's her name is. Right. So yeah, so they were like, so for the last like 3 years, people were in denial. They're like, okay, I know The Force Awakens seemed like shit, but there's all this stuff in it that's gonna pay off. They were like, oh, why Luke has to be the last Jedi, how Rey is actually Kylo Ren's brother, how Rey 100% confirmed Snooki is actually Darth Plagueis, 100% confirmed Rey is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter. So they just had all that bullshit, and they just kept going on and on and on. And I was just like, none of your theories panned out. That it's just, you have to accept it. A bunch of D-grade hacks were put in charge of a Star Wars movie, and that's what they came up with. So, like, people like to shit on the prequels. Like, people shit on the prequels. They say they're, like, awful, awful, awful movies. Like, even Revenge of the Sith. So they say they're terrible. But, and they're like, oh no, well, the new movies may not be good, but they're better than the prequels. Yeah, but the prequels actually gave a shit about Star Wars. Now, you can think whatever you like. I actually like the prequels, but, like, you can tell George Lucas cared when he made it. You can tell he had a vision. It may not have been a good vision. It may not have been, like, he may have made a lot of mistakes. But you can tell, like, by and large, people cared when they were making those movies. You can tell, like, some of the character, like Ewan McGregor, you could tell that guy was having a ball playing Obi-Wan. You could tell most of the people were enjoying it. Like, you could tell Lucas, even if it was a bad vision in a lot of ways, He had a vision and he put like love into those films. This is just like a soulless thing made by some Disney. I don't know. As I've said, I take the controversial opinion Revenge of the Sith is actually my favorite Star Wars movie. I really, really like Revenge of the Sith. I think all the shit it gets is just because of issues with the previous two films. So, because Revenge of the Sith had to clean up a lot of bullshit from the previous two movies, but overall, I love Revenge of the Sith. It really kind of felt like a conclusion to the prequels. It kind of redeemed them. It redeemed them in the way that Luke redeemed Vader. Sam says mainly because the previous two films didn't do enough to set up a compelling fall for Anakin. Yeah, that's true. I mean, Revenge of the Sith had so many highlights. That space battle at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. This is Unity. This is Assassin's Creed Unity. But like the beginning where they're in that space battle and you have like the capital ships firing their guns and you have just like it just felt really real and really visceral. And I think it was the best done space battle in the Star Wars series. The fight on the Revenge of the Sith, you could tell like in a lot of ways they were just having fun. Like the scene where they go on and they fight General Grievous and the Magna Guards, and Christopher Lee gets decapitated. Like that was a cool scene. That was an interesting end to the character. That was like whatchamacallit, this is you've outlived your usefulness kind of moment. The scene where Anakin is on fire and his eyes are glowing and he's crawling away and Palpatine's standing there in his black robe and it looks like Satan. That was amazing. That was a genuinely chilling moment. And I really liked that. And I liked No. I didn't think the No was funny, but I kind of liked it. Then you had like the Yoda versus Palpatine fight, which we've all wanted. And that was a lot of fun too. General Grievous, I think, was mishandled. That was probably the worst part of the movie. But I don't know. Like it just, I felt like a lot of the things that we had all been asking for, they delivered in Revenge of the Sith. We gotta, and people like complain that the Mustafar scene was, yeah, I hate you. Yeah, that was a great, like it was, like I said, I think people are just too hard on it. Compared to saying no. Yeah, the thing you have to keep in mind is Darth Vader had crippling depression. There's a thing in the extended universe where like he just gets taken on by a whole bunch of guys and he basically kind of gets his ass kicked. And then he just freaks out and goes into a complete rage and just beats them all up. And then the guy goes, "Who do you hate?" What could you possibly hate enough to get this much power? And Darth Vader responds, "Me." So, yeah, that was partially why he was so strong as Vader. Just because he was so full of self-hatred. And he felt just immense regret over the death of his... the death of his wife. Because he did truly love Padme. And, like I said, Vader is an interesting character. I do like him a lot. He is one of the great characters in fiction. Vader was a great character. Ewan McGregor was an excellent Obi-Wan. No, Ewan McGregor did an amazing job. He looks like a young Alex Guinness. And Alex Guinness is like one of my favorite actors of all time. And like, how are you going to do the character justice? Like, when you're up against fucking Alec Guinness? And he delivered. he completely delivered on it. Now, Hayden Christensen is not a good actor, but to be fair, Lucas gave him really shitty dialogue. Also, I just don't like Natalie Portman, but I don't know. Ian McDermott just does such a good job as Palpatine. Whether it's him being friendly and trying to be your friend, or him just being, yeah, evil. Like, if I had to pick a Star Wars movie to make, I'd either pick, because I actually really like the new canon book Thrawn. I'd say make that into a movie, or make, what's it called again? Trying to think of the other one I'd make into a movie. Do Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis would make an awesome movie. I don't know who you'd get to play young Palpatine, but I don't know. I think that would be good. But anyways, yeah. So that's about all I had to say about all that. So I hope you guys had a fun time, and I'll talk